হ্যালো অ্যান্ড ওয়েলকাম এভরিওয়ান, গুড ইভিনিং, আসসালামু আলাইকুম এবং সবাইকে স্বাগতম জানাচ্ছি। আপনারা যে যেখানেই আছেন, যেমন আছেন, ওয়েলকাম। অ্যান্ড দিস ইজ ইয়োর হোস্ট কোচ কামরুল হাসান। আপনারা সবাই জানেন যে আমরা কাজ করছি বাংলাদেশের তরুণদেরকে নিয়ে, অ্যান্ড আওয়ার অবজেক্টিভ অ্যান্ড আওয়ার মিশন ইজ triply educate, empower and enlighten the youths of Bangladesh. As you know that 70% of our population coming from the youth segment. So those who are youth today, within the next 10 years, they are going to run the industry, the business, and the country as well as a policy maker. So the next 10 years, this is the time, and this is the best possible time in history to educate them, to empower them, and to enlighten them. And if we are late, we are late forever, because this is the opportunity, I think, the China got in 1990s, and they have capitalized each and every bit of it, and that's the reason actually they have created the fundamentals. And today what China is because they have utilized the opportunity, and we can become the so in the after the next 10 years. That's what I believe, and truly I believe, and that's why we have created the platform for the youths of Bangladesh, not only prepare them for Bangladesh, but also prepare them for the globe, for around the world. And our youths, they have the talent, they have the abilities. What they need is a bit of support and ignite their potentials, and they can unleash it and they can utilize it across all over the world. And that's why we are working all over Bangladesh, engaging all the youths, all the university students. We want to help them to prepare by giving the life skills, the employable skills, and at the same time, entrepreneurial mindset as well. So our fundamental is this, and then we want to give some values into this system so that they become more value driven towards the society. And we believe that that's the most pressing need and demand at this moment. And with the further delay, we have been designing, we have been working into this to give these essential life skills for our students in terms of employable skills and entrepreneurial mindset. So to talk about this in our virtual studio today, I have invited one of very seasoned professional, and as you know, he's coming from UK, and he's a professional educator. He is John Paul Sargent. He is a principal Bliss International School, and before coming there, he has done his LLM, LLB, and LLM from UK, and he has been teaching all kind of, over a decade, and bringing the wealth of experience to share for this platform. So please help me to welcome Mr. John Paul Sargent. John Paul,
Hello.
how are you?
How are you? I'm doing very well. It's nice to see you again. And
Thank you.
I echo what you were saying in your introduction there about Bangladesh, 70% youth. I think it has one of the youngest working populations in the world, which is why the IT sector is currently growing so much. But it's very much an opportunity now for Bangladesh to grow, and the work that you're doing with CKH Network is definitely going to help that, and it's much needed, very much so, because you look at the education system in this country, it's very much geared to learning from your books.
Correct.
When are the young people of this country going to get the opportunity to develop the skills that really matter in life, really matter in business, really matter when you get into the world of work? So that's why we're here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you see, John, I think you have came across this these issues earlier, that you see from our country. I think not less than 7 to 8 millions are workers are all over the world, right, including UK to Europe to America to Middle East, right? And how much they're bringing? They're bringing about 20 to 25 billions in terms of dollar every year. And if you see on the other hand, only couple of 100,000 international resources, majority from their neighboring countries, they're in a country, and they are taking a majority of that bunch, a majority of that hard-earned money there that's brought to us by 8
Yeah.
millions of people. So you see, why is that? Is uh, at the same time we are paying our expatriate resources, hefty amount of money in terms of our talents, in terms of our resources. Why is that? What do you think? What is the gap between you know skilled resources versus an unskilled resources? What came to your mind?
Okay. So if there's multiple things there. If we first talk about the money that's coming in to Bangladesh from abroad through people who have gone abroad, there's an awful lot of it coming into the country. And a lot of that, where is that money going? You know, we see a lot of that money is coming into Bangladesh, and then the people who are here are spending it on things that don't really matter. They're spending it on shopping malls. Yeah, they're spending it on building another 10 stories on the building. And
Correct.
that's where you get the difference between the mentality of people here and the people who are sending the money. The people who have gone abroad, the ones who are, we say, educated, who have developed a career, are sending the money back. And the people who have stayed here and don't know what it is that's needed to improve the country are looking at the maximum profit. I build a 10-story building, I get all the rent from that. I build a shopping mall. Most of these shopping malls are empty, but it's a status thing. So that's one thing I think we need to educate people on is we have all this money coming into the country. Why doesn't it get spent on things that are going to develop the country, benefit in the long run? Because everybody in this country benefits from a stronger Bangladesh, a Bangladesh that international business wants to come to and spend money here on developing people within the country. And what I found at the moment is Bangladeshis abroad, a lot of them have a very good reputation. But when it comes to those who are here, who have been developing through the Bangladeshi education system, at the moment, I think it's lacking in terms of skills. And not in terms of book knowledge, but in terms of like the interpersonal skills, how you build relationships. There's no education on that sort of thing. You get the very talented students who it comes to naturally. Okay, but that's very few. Most people here, around the world actually, most people around the world need to learn the skills that will help them in life and career. But especially in Bangladesh, especially in the Indian
Subcontinent.
subcontinent.
Yeah. Subcontinent.
Because
Yeah.
the culture is very much focused on you have to get that high grade no matter what. Okay? You have to get that grade in biology and physics and economics no matter what. You sacrifice the rest of your childhood, all those other learning opportunities in order to get that A grade in physics. But then
Correct.
what does that A grade in physics achieve in the long run? I understand why parents are like this. It's a proud thing when your kid gets a high grade. But you look at the most successful people in this country, the most successful people around the world, it's not just grades and textbooks that their life has been about. They've been out there, they've learned how to talk to people, how to communicate. They've got life experience, and that has led them other places.
Correct. So you have been into the industry, education industry, quite a long time, right? A reasonable amount of time, and you're teaching
Yeah,
the students, and you know that you're coming from different culture to Bangladesh, and you're looking into the how the kids are growing. So where do you see the majority, the gap lies in?
the gap, again, going back to, first of all, schools, I think that the first gap you have is everything is memorization here. You can only get so far with memorization.
Correct.
It's all very well being able to tell me every single word of the chemistry textbook that you've revised 100 times, but if you can't apply any of the knowledge practically, what's the point? You know,
Correct.
there's so many people who they've studied a business studies textbook. They can get 100% on an economics exam, but once they actually, perfect example. I remember the first year that I taught in Bangladesh, there was a science fair, okay? And there were some amazing projects. And I was one of the judges. I think it was for the Class 8 science projects. And I asked a question about the project. And the student couldn't answer me at all. And the reason was because I had worded the question slightly different to the one that had been rehearsed, the answer that had been rehearsed. So if I'd given the question exactly, they'd have been able to give me a long 5-minute answer. You know, that's part of the gap. Only memorizing things and not understanding. And then if I go back to my education when I was in school, there were so many opportunities for extracurricular activities. You know, extracurricular activities are amazing at helping you develop. I was on the swimming team. I was on the cricket team. You know, we did debates. I played chess. We did school plays. We had variety nights, all sorts of enjoyable things. The talent show, for example, wasn't organized by teachers. It was organized by the students. You had to find a way to raise the money to do it. You know, you're learning business skills early, negotiation skills early. You're learning how to budget things. Yeah? Valuable things that I was learning in Class 8, Class 9, which you don't get here. Like, when I was a teacher in the school before becoming a principal, any type of event the senior teachers would see as something horrible, you know, if it wasn't their event. So for example, if we had an English event, the maths teachers, the science teachers would be like, why do my students need to be doing this? You know, if they're practicing for the English Literature Festival, that means they're not doing their maths homework. They're not revising chemistry. Something like Model United Nations. I had such a big challenge just getting people to accept that a Model United Nations competition is a valuable thing. Think of all the skills you develop by participating in something like that. Your ability to speak in front of an audience, your ability to reason in front of people, you having to very quickly make decisions. But some students were banned from going because they would miss one day of school. You know, they'd miss one maths class. So why do they need that extra thing?
Correct.
That is where the main gap comes from. Because if you have no experience of extra things, you just become a sponge for all this knowledge. How do you communicate it? You know, if you don't have communication skills. How do you apply anything to life if you have never lived? If you've only ever gone to school, come back home, eaten your lunch, gone back out for coaching classes again, come back home, revised your textbook to 3 a.m., 2 hours sleep, get up, go back to school again. Repeated cycle over and over. Whereas in UK, USA, you are very much encouraged to do other things. Even something like a work experience program. I did 2 weeks work experience in class 10 in a lawyer's office. Can you imagine telling people in Bangladesh, your child will miss 2 weeks of classes to go and do some work experience? The first question would be, will this affect their grade? You know? But that's where the main gap comes from, at school level. University level, you know, there's a reason why some people question degrees from Bangladesh. Okay? The universities, when you have this system of private universities and public universities, and the private university is designed solely for making money, who is watching the private universities for the quality? You know? The gap there comes from checking that things are being done right. Yes, you have many universities here that are trying to do things right. But then you have private universities that they're just giving out pieces of paper for nothing. And I know this as a matter of fact because I guest lectured in one university for a while. And in my lecture, maybe there were 13 people. And on the exam day, there were about 70 people taking the exam. You know, and one of the funniest things that I have ever witnessed in my teaching career is law exam. So I was taking an English for law course. I get the papers back. This one student who I've never heard of, never seen him in my lecture before, submits a paper. For 30 pages, he has only rewritten the question over and over and over again, rewritten the question. And so I asked my wife, because my wife is selective, why would somebody do this? And she said to me, because he doesn't think you're going to read it. He thinks you're just going to see that there's 30 pages written and just give a grade. I couldn't believe it because she's saying this because this is what happens in some educational institutes. You know, you just pay your fee, you get the grade. So that's where a huge gap comes. It's the honesty of the education.
This is so dangerous, you know, what I have just heard from you, and so ashamed as well. So coming back, as we have experienced in the last 20 years into the corporate industry, and when I speak to the university undergrad students and being I mean also with the young professional, the number one gap I noticed is the interpersonal communication skills.
Yeah.
And also negotiation skills. So both, because in life we got to communicate each and every single moment with each and everybody. Doesn't matter teacher, student, or parents, or doesn't matter. Also negotiate in each and every moment. So let's talk about, you know, first of all, the, you know, how it could impact an undergrad students or graduates if he or she having improved interpersonal communication skills. Because once they know the benefit, I think they would go to emphasize it more. So let's talk the benefit first for them, what it could happen. At the meantime, the audience can ask the question as well. The audience, I am encouraging all of you to ask the question so that we can take them and you can ask later on. Okay. John Paul, right.
Interpersonal communication skills, they're vital. You know, they're absolutely vital. Think about how you're getting your job, getting into your career from that first moment. The first thing you're doing most of the time after you've given your CV, you get that phone call, you're going to have to talk with people, okay? You're going to have to talk in an interview. You're going to have to show your communication skills immediately just to get a basic job, you know? So it's not something that's taught in school. It's that important. It should have its own subject in school, or be a module that everyone takes at university, is developing interpersonal skills. Because you need interpersonal skills in every walk of life, every part of your career. Your interview, in order to convince the interviewers, show who you are, interpersonal skills are needed. For you to progress through a company, you're not going to progress if you don't have those interpersonal skills. If you're not able to build relationships with your co-workers, with clients, with your bosses, you know? Not all of us agree with our bosses. This is going to be a stunning fact, I'm sure, for everyone. You're never going to agree with everyone you work with. You're never going to agree with everybody who's above you. Even when you're a manager, you're going to have issues with people who are below you. The way that you navigate through these things smoothly and ensure the ongoing success for yourself and for whoever you're working for and with is through learning interpersonal communication skills. So, like, what are interpersonal communication skills? Like, one of the first things you have to consider is self-awareness. Okay? Self-awareness is vital for communication. Emotional intelligence. Yeah, I know that's something you're very much into, is the transcendental meditation. You know, people meditate in order to get that self-awareness, and self-awareness is vital for communication, because before you communicate with anybody, you have to be aware of your own feelings. You have to be aware of your feelings, your emotions, and the messages you're going to give to people because of how you feel first. If you don't have that self-awareness, you can do damage in your communication. But how do you learn that? Again, you're not taught that in school. And then it's a very cultural thing in Bangladesh. You know, you're taught to worry about what everyone else is thinking here in Bangladesh. It's all about how what you're doing will affect your parents' reputation, this person's reputation. It's never about how do I feel. You know, students are very, very surprised when I ask them, how are you feeling? All the time, because they've never been taught that it's okay to have your own feelings, your own emotions. So learning about how to recognize your emotions, how things make you feel, will help you in your communication. I don't know what you think about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awareness is the first. Where I am, where am I?
Yeah, where are you? And then after that, there's many other things that come into communication skills. Non-verbal communication, yeah? And it's not just the throwing your hands about while you're talking thing. There are so many very subtle non-verbal communications that you can give, which will have an impact on the words you're saying. Like a raised eyebrow. A raised eyebrow is very communicative. And sometimes
Correct.
you might be doing that without even realizing. So understanding the different gestures, the different facial expressions, how eye contact works, all very important for interpersonal communication. And one thing that when I was younger, I wasn't a good communicator, honestly. I wasn't a good communicator. And actually, I'm a very introverted, shy person. You might not get that when I'm talking in an interview or when I'm in front of a class. Okay? It's because I've developed my ability to speak. I've developed my ability to communicate. 10 years ago, when I started teaching, if somebody was senior to me, I wouldn't be able to say anything to them, you know? But now I can get up in front of an audience. Why? Because I learned about different skills. So one really important part of nonverbal communication is eye contact, you know? Eye contact is vital. And you know, as a speaker yourself, when you're speaking either one-on-one or to an audience, that eye contact around the room is vital. Now, when I was younger, I could not make eye contact with anybody. I felt terrified if I'm talking to somebody who's senior to me and I make eye contact, like, oh my goodness, I've made eye contact, how embarrassing. Like, they can see that I'm nervous now. And the thing that changed, I went to a training. I went to a training on public speaking. It was just a small thing, a one-day thing. And this person gave me this wonderful tip. that when you're speaking to somebody, if you can't look them in the eye, look at their eyebrows. If you look
Right.
at their eyebrows, everyone still thinks that you're looking them in the eye. No one will know. And that nervousness goes away. So for about a year, I just looked at people's eyebrows constantly when talking to them, you know? And these are the sort of things that you learn on a course about communication and interpersonal skills. You know, it's things you don't even think of on a normal day. I would never have known to do that if I hadn't have done a training. You know, you learn so many little things like that. So yeah, non-verbal communication is such an important part of interpersonal skills. The body language while you're speaking, even your posture. You know, if you go to an interview, I love always giving examples when I'm talking about these things. As a principal, I've interviewed a lot of people now for teaching positions. Okay. And you can tell that these candidates have never ever been taught how to sit in a formal situation, how to sit in a way that exudes confidence or just puts the best of you over. You know, we have people coming in for interviews, they sit down and they're slouched like this.
Yeah.
You know, immediately showing I'm not confident. Or there was one person who came into the interview, had that arm on the back of the chair like this, leaning. You know, simple things like that. If someone had just taught him, he thought that made him look confident. But what did that make him look? That made him look ridiculous. It made him look like someone who didn't care. So, you know, learning about the non-verbal communication, vital for interpersonal skills. Then you've got other things like, how do you show respect? How do you show respect to people? And I don't know what your opinions are on respect, but the way I see respect is very different to a lot of ways that people in Bangladesh see respect. Here it's very much somebody is older than you must respect them no matter what. Okay? There's this thing that I hate it when teachers do it, or when support staff do it, where I walk into a room and they stand up. Yeah? Like, it's a cultural thing here. Because I'm their senior, I walk into a room, they stand up, and they think that that shows me respect. But if you're being forced to do it, is that respect or is that fear?
Fear.
You know? It's fear, it's not respect. So people need to learn, A, what respect really is, and how you can show respect in the way that you greet people, in the way that you talk to people, and in the way that you listen to people. Listening to people is a vital part of communication. It's a much neglected part of communication as well. Active listening. That's something you need to learn on an interpersonal communications course, is active listening. How do you listen in a way that people, A, know you're interested, and know that you've taken on board things?
Let's talk about a bit about active listening, because listening is so vital today, because everybody wants to talk and everybody wants to speak and everybody wants to be heard, but nobody speaks, or nobody listens to be understood, but to respond. So that's one thing. We have only one mouth, we have two ears. So how can we actually develop this active listening? Maybe a lot of people even don't know what active listening the term is. So could you please make a bit simplified version of active listening?
So active listening is essentially you're listening in a way that people will understand that you are listening to them. You're giving non-verbal cues like nods. You are giving verbal cues, asking questions about what has been said, so that people know that you have taken on board a message You've heard somebody's perspective on something and you've thought about it. Yeah. Passive listening is where you see it all the time, where somebody is there talking, you're talking to them and they're fiddling with their cup of tea, they've got their phone in their other hand, they're finishing typing up an email. That's not active listening. Active listening, you drop everything else you're doing, you focus on the person speaking, and you show them that you have listened to them and understood. And that is part of showing respect. And this has to come two ways. So this is what I would want people to learn is you don't just have to be an active listener when you are the subordinate, when you are the lowest person in the company. You have to be an active listener when you get to the highest position in the company as well. Because if you want your organization to run successfully, you have to set the example for a start, and you have to make everyone feel like they're respected. It goes back to that idea of what is respect, what is fear. A lot of people get to a high position and they think that I have to be feared in order for everything to run successfully. But you will learn on an interpersonal communications skills course that active listening when you're at the top will make everything better. And again, you can go back to my experience in schools. Majority of teachers in Bangladesh are passive listeners. They don't listen to the students. They very rarely listen to the students. The students are scared a lot of the time to ask anything, to say anything to the teacher, whether it's about work or something personal that they need help with, because they're scared of not being listened to or being judged. And then when you move away from the classroom, the people who run the schools above the teachers face the same thing. The teachers can't go to the management of the school and ask anything because they don't listen. Everyone just has their own set views and the other people's opinions aren't worthy. It's another place where the gap in the education in this country comes in. Nobody wants to listen to the people they consider at a lower level than them. It's very rare that you find that. Very, very rare. Which is why it was very frustrating when I was younger. So when I first started teaching in Bangladesh, I was 23? 23 when I first taught in Bangladesh. And the battles with the senior teachers just to get anything done, any modern type of teaching method, no one would listen. Never. No one would listen, only because of my age, nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, now that I'm a principal, people will listen. I'm saying the same things now that I said 10 years ago, but only now will they actively listen. But not out of respect. But the senior teachers will listen because, oh, he's the principal now, I have to listen. Whereas the younger teachers, the teachers who come in, they're listening with respect because they understand differently. Now, it's a generational thing. It's very important for all those young people going into work to learn how to actively listen and to just practice it all the time. The rest of your life, active listening. Even having, like one thing I find, which is something other people might do, keep a diary. You know, if you keep a diary and you have it there whenever there's a conversation, you hear something important, you make a note of it, that's part of active listening as well. Being able to go back later to someone and say, do you remember this point that you made? Well, we're going to do this, this, and this. So learning about active listening, how to do it, is very important part of interpersonal
So let's move on. So that is understood that, like, somebody, if anybody wants to improve the interpersonal communication skills, need to understand the essential part of active listening. And there are different aspect of active listening, different tools, techniques, right? And deep listening, doing the paraphrasing, asking the questions, and also
Yes,
listening
absolutely.
thoroughly, right? And not
Yes,
interrupting, and not try to understand in my way, rather
yeah,
the person who's trying to say his way. A lot of time we
yeah,
do mistake, we try to understand my way, but
yes.
to the speaker's way. So there are different things could be into the interpersonal communication skill. I mean,
And then,
correct me if I'm wrong, right? Is this
yeah,
the
and
different
then,
part?
yeah, there's so many different techniques you can use, and everything you said there is correct. And then I just want to focus on another area which is linked with the active listening,
Mhm.
is how you respond. Yeah, when you're getting
Correct.
feedback, you've got the active listening. Part of interpersonal communication skills is then how you respond to feedback or how you give feedback,
Correct.
because nobody likes the idea that they're being criticized.
Mm.
Okay, and it's very easy to give feedback in a way that someone feels criticized, but it's also very easy to misinterpret what someone has said to you and then immediately show your annoyance or something at that. And learning how to be receptive to feedback is a vital thing that people have to learn, whether it's positive or negative. The way you respond to it, you need to learn how to grow
Correct.
from feedback. But
Correct.
more importantly, again, most of the people that we're talking to are looking to get into higher level jobs. Eventually, they want to go into management. So,
Yeah.
knowing how to give feedback is an essential part of interpersonal communication, because
Right.
there are different methods. There are different methods of giving feedback. For example,
Mm.
you've got the sandwich method where you say something positive about
Mhm.
the employee, then you, in a constructive way, talk about the thing that you want to discuss that maybe needs changing, and then you sandwich that with something positive as well. You know, that's one technique for giving feedback, and there's many. And you have, if you don't know about them, you can't use them.
Correct.
You know,
The things,
most
the
of the
things
time,
we don't know, right? The things
yeah,
only knows we can experiment it, we can use it and experience it. That's
yeah, it's always a surprise. Like, you read a lot, I read a lot, and still I'm always surprised how every time I pick up a new book, I learn so much. You know, I think I know everything, and then I read a new book, and it turns out I know very little about the world and the universe. So when you see a course like interpersonal communication skills, you might think, nah, I already know everything. My
Mm.
communication skills are top level, amazing. I guarantee you ever do even a 1 day interpersonal communication skills course, you will learn something new from that that you will be able to take into your career and run with it. You know?
Right. So yeah, one thing we often come across is that, as people says, they are suffering lack of confidence. This is emotionally, the physically, and as a result, they think that they're not worth living. They are not worth thinking, dreaming. They're not worth even persuading some bigger thing. Is because of low self-esteem. And this low self-esteem, as far as I understand, is coming from inability to understand, inability to communicate my me being an own being, myself, to others. So tell us something about this, right? Because this is the majority of us feeling this low self-esteem, and I mean, then so many
Yeah.
things is happening.
Again, learning how to build your own self-confidence, it's an important thing. It's not something that you can just wake up one day and, oh, suddenly I have all the confidence in the world. It takes practice, you know.
Correct.
And there's lots of different theories behind how you build your self-confidence, how you build your self-esteem. I found in the last 2-3 years what's worked for me. Okay, so I can only say what's worked with me. I have found that writing things down, writing my thoughts down, analyzing why I feel certain ways, getting it all on paper helps. And then from that, setting yourself goals. Okay, if you're a shy person, okay, you will always be a shy person who cannot communicate if you decide, no, I'm too shy, I don't want to talk with anyone. Yeah. One thing that I did in order to try and work on my ability to speak to people is, okay, I'm going to an event today. My target is to talk to 3 new people. 3 new people on this day. Doesn't matter if I make a fool of myself, try and talk to those 3 new people. The next time, talk to 4, 5 next time. You know, setting yourself targets like this. I think meditation helps. You know, meditation definitely helps. I am late to meditation, but in the last 2 years, I have been meditating every day, and my confidence has grown. Because, you know, in the past, I would go into a room and feel like I don't belong here. You know, everybody's telling me, oh, you're so good at this, you're so good at that, but I don't believe it. But meditating, guided meditations, these sort of things help. But also just knowing how to behave in certain situations, you know, that's part of communication skills. Like, Bangladesh is a completely different culture to me.
Correct.
Right? So part of my nervousness professionally in the past has come from not knowing what is the right way to behave in certain situations in Bangladesh. So instead of being proactive, you end up becoming insular and not wanting to do anything because you lack the confidence. So learning the ways to behave, the things of different cultures, is really, really important if you want to improve your confidence. Also having friends who can give you positive feedback, important. Not just friends. So many of us wait for feedback from the people we work with. But why wait for the feedback? Actively go and pursue the feedback. Go and ask the person you're working for, what is it that I'm doing well? Make sure you ask that question. What is it I'm doing well? People never ask this question. They always ask, what can I do better? What am I doing wrong? Tell me how to improve. First of all, find out the things you're doing well.
So this is also interpersonal. This is also interpersonal communication skills that helps to level up the game. You know, I just want to share one study, one research from Harvard University. They have found that why their graduates are actually, most successful in the earth. You know, in terms of, the good job offering, in terms of pay packages as well. So they have found that one thing that has separated them, one thing only, and that one thing is asking the questions, asking the tough questions on the face of reality as well.
So that's part of learning interpersonal skills as well, is learning how to ask questions, learning how to ask them in the right way, learning how to phrase your questions in a way that you're not just going to get a yes/no answer. No, learning how to avoid closed questions.
Correct. Open-ended questions.
Open-ended questions, and how to get the information. Too many people are scared.
And also empowering questions. And also empowering questions as well, right? And also there are certain ways. These are actually, makes any candidate separate from the crowd.
Yeah, interviews.
Interviews.
Like, you're allowed to ask questions in an interview. You're going to
Absolutely.
impress people more if you
Hmm.
ask questions. And I don't just mean how much are you going to pay me, how many days holiday. When you go to an interview, why not ask them, why should I work for you? What is my benefit from coming here to work with you? You know,
Correct.
that shows confidence.
Hmm.
If you
Correct.
want to exude confidence, you ask questions. That
Hmm.
company needs you, not the other way round. And that
Yeah.
comes into negotiation skills as well.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
negotiation skills are something you have to learn. Absolutely have to learn. People will
Hmm.
think that negotiation skills just for business. That's rubbish. You're negotiating constantly, all the time in your life.
Hmm.
Going for a
You know,
job interview,
let's
when
let's
they
talk
ask you the
about it.
salary,
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's talk about it, the negotiation skill, because I wanted to set the tone. Like the first, we start negotiation from the very core of our mind, very core of our head. How is that? Because we have the reticular activating system, RAS. It negotiates first whatever information coming towards our head and mind. The reticular activating system creates the, the one door gateway, and then it negotiates, it actually negotiates which information it will let in and hand over to the conscious mind, and which one it will not, and majority it negates. So let's talk about the, because that's the pure science. So what does it mean? That we also need to learn how to negotiate. So after we get in all the information into the conscious mind, to let it take to subconscious mind and then process it. So what we don't see is inside what is happening inside. But we all know that negotiation, we want to do outside, but we don't know the relationship inside and outside. Then it's literally difficult to be expert on negotiation. Let's talk about the different part of negotiation and how a novice or a beginner can begin in understanding the negotiation skills and strengthening it.
the first thing to understand about negotiation is negotiation requires preparation. You know,
Preparation.
you have to fully understand yourself and what you want before you go into a negotiation. And like I said earlier, negotiation doesn't just mean business. You go for a job, okay? You need to negotiate a salary. You need to negotiate working hours, things like this. You go into a shop, you can negotiate. I mean, in Bangladesh, people love doing their negotiations in the market. But if you want to be good at negotiation in any part of your life, it's about preparation. It's about understanding what you're prepared to accept, understanding where your cutoff point is, understanding the parameters that you're willing to negotiate in. And if we go back again to an example of me, the first time that I took a job, okay, I knew nothing about negotiation. I knew nothing about body language during negotiation. I didn't know techniques for negotiation, didn't know how to bargain or anything. First job I was offered, I'm in there, I'm sitting forward, so eager. Everything that they say to me is great, wonderful, fantastic. Yes, I'll accept that. Yes, you can take everything I own, just give me the job. You know, that kind of exaggerated thing. I got an awful contract the first time that I got a job because I, A, I didn't even think before the job interview, what is it I want from this job? I just knew I needed a job. You know, I didn't think about, okay, what's the salary that I want? What am I prepared to go to? I didn't learn about the body language relating to being reluctant. You know, you can be excited about what someone is offering you, but you need to learn not to show it. Because when you're negotiating, if you suddenly show all that excitement, then the other person has the control. They have the power. You always have to go into a negotiation trying to be the reluctant party. So how do you do that? Again, it's all linked in with interpersonal communication skills. It's the body language. It's like when you're negotiating, it's not being forward and excited. It's sitting back, showing a relaxed nature, raising an eyebrow, like we said earlier. You know, how powerful is that? Someone says something as part of the negotiation, you just raise an eyebrow a little bit. They understand, okay, that's something we need to work on. So again, if you're learning how to negotiate, you need to learn to write things down as you're thinking. You're talking about everything being in your mind. It's very difficult to remember everything, you know? Writing down what you're thinking about is vital. I mean, I think everybody watching this can, if we go with the idea of dreams, okay? How many times have you had a dream where you've invented the greatest thing in the world, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm going to write that down in 5 minutes, and 5 minutes later, you can't remember what it was. You know, that happens to everybody. You have this incredible thought, you don't write it down, and that thought never comes back. Same with negotiating. If you write down what you're thinking, you can go back just before you go to negotiate, and this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is why.
Correct.
You know your walk-away prices, you know your zones of possible agreements, you know what your alternatives are, you have backup plans.
Correct.
This is all parts of negotiation.
And they also, you know, the other party also then they also thinks very carefully, and they see the candidate is prepared. They also see the candidate is confident.
Yes.
They also see that, you know, this is the right candidate. Then it, you know, what happens is actually what I experienced, as you said, you know, because of good negotiation, you know, 20 to 100% incremental benefits in terms of benefits, you know. And the same thing, if somebody does not negotiate, he loses out. He loses out because the
You
other
have to
party
negotiate.
is not competent.
Not just that, like part of negotiating as well, if you know who you're going to be negotiating with, you need to know as much about that person as possible. Absolutely. And that's, again, all part of preparation. So what are the things that you need to know about someone before you negotiate with them? You can't go to a job interview and not know anything about the people interviewing you. Again, it comes down to asking questions. People are scared to ask questions. Why not, when you receive the offer of a job interview, why can't you ask, who will be interviewing me? You take their names. We have this glorious thing called Google now. You can Google anyone and find out something about them. You know, if someone Googled my name, they'd see some of the articles that I wrote for the Daily Star. You know, come to the interview and mention that you read one of my articles. Already you're in a better place for negotiating. You know?
Correct.
It's something you're encouraged to do when you're applying for PhDs. You know, you wouldn't apply for a PhD, you wouldn't talk to a professor and not know anything about that professor and their work. So why would you go for a job interview for any company and not know anything about the people that are interviewing? And I've got a good example of how that can work for you. I interviewed for one job, and part of the negotiation was the salary, and I asked for a specific amount. And one of the directors was one of the top surgeons in the country. Okay. And I asked for a certain amount, and he turned around to me and he said, I don't even earn this much in 3 months, what you're asking for. But because I'd done my research, I knew who this person was. I know that this doctor sits in his chamber for 6 hours a day. There's 20 people coming through paying 500 taka every single one. I know that he earned in 1 day more than I was asking for my monthly salary. Okay? So knowing that, I can just not make a big deal, but jokingly say something to show that I've understood that you're just saying this to try and make me ask for less. And so that what he was saying was off the table immediately. And you know what? I got more than the salary than they wanted to offer me because I understood the people. I did my research. I knew how much the place was making as well. You know? I'd worked out this place has this many students. They're paying. I found out the fees. I found out the fees for the school. So I knew how much money was coming into the school. And I said to them, this is how much money you make. This should be the fair salary. All part of negotiation, preparation, learning how to find these things is vital. So again, studying negotiation skills, you will learn all of the things needed to get yourself a better salary, better benefits, everything. And then once you get into a company, negotiating as you move up, you know, negotiating things with co-workers, learning how to speak with your bosses, learning how to speak with clients. There will always be negotiation. And learning how to frame things positively. You know, learning the right language that will have a positive impact to get you what you want. All things that need to be taught. You don't just wake up one morning and suddenly it's there in your head. You know, a lot of people seem to think that's how life works, that I'll just wake up one morning and everything will suddenly be there, everything will come to me. And then you're 40 years old and you haven't got anything that you wanted because you've just been waiting for it to happen, instead of just learning what are actually very basic things. These aren't complicated things that we're talking about. These are very basic level things that make such a huge difference. It's like adding salt to your curry. You only need a little bit of salt in a lot of curry to make a huge difference. Same here. A little bit of learning will make a huge difference to your career.
Absolutely. So unfortunately, what we see and what we experience is, our students, they're very reluctant to, to apply this or to learn this at the first stage, and they're not aware about it. So then they're actually not ready to learn it, to invest for this learning, and as a result, long term into the career, they go and suffer. Long time they go and suffer. I have seen it years and years and years. It's just the suffering is endless.
You know from your career that if you hadn't learned these things, you wouldn't be in the position you are now. And I know from my career so far, look, I'm 35 years old and I'm the principal of a school, an international school. Okay. How many 35-year-olds do you know who are in principal positions in this country? There's hardly any. I only know one other principal who's younger than me. Most of the principals are old, they are close to retirement age, and it's because people in this country with great ideas do not know how to communicate them.
True.
Or they're scared to communicate them, or they don't know how to word things to put themselves in the shop window, or they're scared to. They're scared to say something because, again, it comes back to respect, fear. Most people fear the people who are above them, and therefore they're scared to say something that might be a bit different. I'm in a principal's position because I learned to say what I feel. Not everybody is going to agree with me on everything, but you know what? The people who mostly don't agree with me, I don't want to work with you anyway. That's another thing that people need to learn. You don't have to just go and work with anybody. You don't have to compromise your ideals. You don't have to compromise who you are just to go and get any job. If you learn these skills, you will find your ability to communicate will lead you to meeting people who think the same way that you think. And when you find people who think the same way that you think, that is when you will develop success. It's like the first time you and I had a proper conversation, you know, and we discovered we both have this belief in the benefits of meditation. Yeah. Because we knew how to talk and discuss properly, we discovered that we have this mutual connection. But if you don't learn the skills on how to communicate, this will never happen. You know, we met at the English Olympiad.
Correct. Yeah.
And let me tell you, if it had been 5 years ago, you would have given me your business card, and I would have been too shy or have too many negative things in my head to then ever talk to you again. You know, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now if it was 5 years ago, because I hadn't learned the techniques to improve my confidence, to improve the way that I can talk to people. You know, it all comes about learning. If you don't learn these things, you can't take the opportunities that come your way. The opportunities will come and you'll miss them.
Correct. Yeah, that's the simple way, that I also realized, it's just in very hard way, because if people just learn the simple things, investing 10 taka, they can actually save or earn 100 times even more later on down the stream. The 10 taka investment of now, it can save them thousands of taka. So that means they can earn more, even thousands of, because of this 10 taka investment of learning this, understanding this. Because it's a simple, the reason actually I have created this platform and came to this, for I have invested for my learning, and here and there, at home and abroad, being John Maxwell certification, being to Harvard, being to UK, being to World Bank's program, being to many other programs, paid thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollar investment, and now it's the benefit. But a lot of people, the things is an expense, and as a result, when the thing is an expense, the revenue doesn't come.
Yeah, small investments and knowing how to utilize them for the long run is very important. And investing in something like this is a pure investment in your future. Every time you invest in a small course that teaches you something new, something valuable, something practical, you've made an investment in your future that will pay off, so long as you take the lessons you've learned and you apply them. It is no good doing these courses and then not applying anything you've learned, which again is another thing when you talk about education gap in Bangladesh. You'll find a lot of teachers now go on these courses and then they don't apply them. They're just happy to have a certificate and say, I have my certificate, and then there's no application. You do these courses, you apply them, you will see the benefits in the long run.
So I wanted to ask those who are watching and would be watching in future, so those who wants to improve their interpersonal communication skills and negotiation skills, you can say yes, maybe a little bit of investment, but yes, I want to improve. If you really want to, say yes, because you never know, if you improve a bit here in 1 year, 2 year, down 5 year, now how much return of the investment you would get. So let me see.
Not even 1 year, 2 year. I mean, this kind of course, interpersonal communication skills, you could go to a job interview the next day and it's changed your life, because the job market now is so competitive in Bangladesh, so
much.
It does not matter if you have a degree from the UK or the USA if you don't have interpersonal skills, negotiation skills, because there are so many people now coming back with their degrees from foreign countries and they can't find a job.
Correct.
If The engineering, like everybody, if you go back 5 years, everyone was saying, do an engineering degree, go abroad, do an engineering degree, come back, make lots of money. But if everybody goes and does an engineering degree abroad, okay, you're not going to come back and make lots of money unless you are way above everybody else in the way you present yourself. Because now there's no shortage of people with engineering degrees. There's too
Correct.
many.
Correct.
You know, I know many people who have engineering degrees and they've come back and they're just having to do private coaching for English medium students. They're not
Right.
doing anything related to engineering. They can't get a job because every time they apply for an engineering job, there's another 300, 400 people, all with the same qualification. And you know who gets the job? The person who has the interpersonal communication skills, the person who's able to negotiate.
Correct. So
So it's
yep,
vital. It's vital for
very
short-term and long-term prosperity.
very vital. So I have been observing it since last more than 24 years. So and then I have realized this lately. This is so much, it is so vital thing today. I wish and I only hope and pray that I could help all the students, you know, before they enter into the corporate life or business life or anything, you know, learning this interpersonal communication skills and negotiation skill. And I bet their life would never be the same. Their life would never be the
Absolutely.
same. So, and unfortunately everybody, you know, wants thinks they think this is so easy, but it's not easy. Easy thing, easy comes, easy goes. Easy goes, it doesn't stick. The things we invest, that is hard. Hard things comes hard, it doesn't go away easy, right? So this is a vital difference. I want to share this knowledge and information. Please don't always look for easy thing. If it is easy
Yeah.
to achieve, it will not stick to you. But
Yeah.
everybody else would go and run for that. It's easy, right? But things which is difficult, go for that, because not many people would go for that. But that's hard, and that you have to earn.
Yeah. The
So that means
difficult
you have
things will stick.
practice, and you have to do practice, you have to learn, you have to undergo courses and things like this. So one last comment. So this is from my that's why we want to launch this interpersonal communication skills and negotiation skill, because that's what I feel and I believe a very vital thing for today to learn. So let's wrap up. You know, I want to have an idea. So, what an ideal course of interpersonal communication skills and negotiation skills should have, and they're going to learn from this from the course, a brief course.
So if you're doing interpersonal skills, communication skills, of course, so we would need to teach you how to improve your verbal skills when asking questions. Okay, because we've talked about this already. Asking questions is vital. So improving your verbal skills when asking questions, learning how to communicate with power. Okay, how to effectively communicate. So many people talk, but they're not necessarily communicating anything. You know, there are certain words, certain phrases that will give power to what you're saying. Non-verbal communication. We talked about that. Learning non-verbal cues, learning how to use them, learning how to recognize them, all part of interpersonal communication skills. Learning how to start a conversation. You think about it. Many people will not even start a conversation with someone because they don't know how to. So learning how to start a conversation and also learning how to develop conversation as it goes on. You know, stopping those awkward moments where you just suddenly hit a roadblock and you have that awkwardness. Creating a positive first impression. You know, creating a positive first impression is vital. Most people will make a judgment about you within the first 30 seconds. So how
Correct.
you
Correct.
introduce yourself, part of
Correct.
interpersonal communication. Learning to understand how other people think and how their viewpoints are important. You know, if you want to communicate successfully, you need to think from other people's perspectives. You can't always just be, this is what I think is correct. Because there are many different viewpoints, many different ways of thinking. Learning the skills to influence people, developing those skills, learning how to persuade, the language of persuasion, and learning how to use people's emotions, basically. So learning to recognize people's emotions and to use them in order to make a positive effect. That's all part of interpersonal communication skills. And that's the course that we'll be running, 2 days, 2-day course, which will teach all of those things. Okay, it'll be an interactive workshop-based approach where you will learn everything that we just talked about in order to improve interpersonal communication skills. And then moving on to negotiation skills, understanding the different ways of negotiating, the different phases of negotiating, the skills required for negotiation, understanding techniques for preparing for negotiation, the kind of information that you should share during a negotiation, and the type of information that you should hold back during a negotiation. Learning the skills for bargaining, the language to successfully bargain. Learning how to reach an agreement that is mutually benefit for all, but also learning how to deal with anything that's negative in a negotiation. You know, when you're negotiating, it's not always going to be positive. So how do you deal with negatives in a way that do not just make the negotiation completely fall apart? Using negotiation to solve problems and learning how to negotiate on behalf of others. Because part of your job might be to negotiate for other people. So all of that 2-day negotiation course would be covered. So 2 courses, interpersonal communication skills and negotiating skills, 4 days in total.
Absolutely.
It would be well worth investing time in those. Would change your life.
Correct. So those who are watching and listening right now, so stay tuned and also let us know. Are you really interested to improve your life, to improve your confidence, to improve the possibilities of having a, having a better position, to bargain a better position, and thereby establishing yourself a better communicator and change the perspective of yours and others towards you? If you really want to improve your communication skills and negotiation skills, type yes. And watch out, we're going to launch this course because we felt this is really very, very vital for all the students and young professionals, in irrespective of age, irrespective of wherever you are. Because you never know what opportunities you are missing out, because you don't know what you don't know, and what you know, only that you can use it. So I come and learn every day. I try to improve every day, even if it is 1%. Trust me. So no, that's my hunger. In every aspect, I really, really, really want to improve, and every day, single inch to single inch, because I have an object, I have a target. What I'm saying this to audience is because I want all of you to set your benchmark, to set the target, but take steps inch by inch, every day, every month. And then you see, after a couple of years, you have achieved so much because of small actions together. So we only hope that you would understand and you'd realize the importance today of having good interpersonal communication skills and a solid understanding or a base understanding of negotiation, what it takes, and then improve from there on. So that's what we really want to. And thank you, John Paul, for being here with us and sharing and discussing and putting up this time and effort. We are really looking forward, to have you and to launch this course for our students, so that they can be largely benefited and they can take the advantage out of this.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm very much forward to meeting the people who are going to join us on this adventure and on this course. It's going to be fantastic, really.
Absolutely. And you learn this communication skills from the native, who speaks English as a mother tongue, right? And and then you can understand the tonalities maybe a bit better, maybe the pronunciation a bit better way. A side talk could also help you to understand so many ways. So that's what our invitation is on for all of you, those are watching and would be watching. And watch out in our page, and we're going to announce it pretty soon, the course that can change, at least can improve your life significantly over a course of time. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for watching and asking questions. We'll get back to you shortly. Thank you, John Paul, and see you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.